Chris, Phillip, Eric, and Kesley. Welcome to episode 20 of the Reddit episode Swing Analysis series, and this one is just for you. Hello friends and members of the Lion Golf Academy. Thanks again for joining me once more for episode 20. So 20 episodes, I can't believe it. We've already probably helped over 100 people, and that's great. So thank you for the support. If you know anybody else that wishes to submit videos, you don't have to follow Reddit. You can just submit a face on it down the line, and I'll definitely help you out. As I always state, this isn't a swing lesson. This is basically an evaluation of your swing to look at some cause and effect that could be creating some misses for you and seeing some of those dispersions and where they come from. Understanding why this happens from my perspective usually helps you cure that cause. There are some things that you can try and correct to get you through a certain round, but that's most likely band-aid fixes. But once you cure the root cause, the band-aids don't require as much. So keep that in mind. I don't know any of these students. They just sent me the emails, so I have some history on some of them. Some I don't have any history on them, so I don't know the range of motions. I don't know their flexibilities, their history, unless they put it down there. They have some sort of injury. So with that being in mind, I'm going to look at this and go across the diagnosis as if they can get in those positions and work their way through that motion. So with that being said, let's get started. Chris, you are on the screen. Oh, and if you like this, please hit that like, subscribe. It really helps promote the channel. Next up, so Chris. All right, Chris, let's take a look here. Let's look at your notes. Been playing for about 8 months and have put a lot of time into my swing so far. Avoiding over the top move and trying to get more lag in the downswing. My main miss has recently been a thin shot or a push. Okay, so thin shots, pushes, and trying to increase your lag. All right, let's take a look. See what we got going on here. That looks suspiciously like Mission Bay. Let me know if that's Mission Bay. I'm just going to take my guess right now. Okay. All right, a little bit of a hip sway going on early. Weight pretty centered. Trying to get the weight going. You get it eventually going to the target and also to your back left heel, which is good. Hands are doing a pretty good job in relation to the chest. I'd say maybe just a lack of turn with the lower body on the way back could cause you to disconnect slightly, and you can see that little disconnection here where your upper body starts to shift into the target, and now you have to right yourself, and you're so busy righting yourself that you're unable to turn through it. So it does explain some thin shots, occasional heavy shots too. Thins and heavy shots are kind of the same miss. Usually the thin shot and the heavy shot comes from your upper body either tilting too much, turning too much, and your hands have to kind of save you. So if you have decent hand timing, you can get away with it. If you see yourself hitting a lot of heavy shots and a lot of thin shots, that means your hands don't quite have that much timing yet. And since you're such a new golfer, being at 8 months, it's probably that's the case, that you haven't quite developed that time to help compensate that. But I'm glad you sent this in at 8 months to get you at least corrected earlier. I've dealt with students that have had issues that have been playing for 20, 30 years, and in order to try and fix that, it is borderline impossible just because they have so much ingrained in them. So I'm glad that you started this out right. So keep it up. If you are working with somebody, I highly suggest that you still keep working with somebody. So let's take a look at this starting position, and let's draw some lines to help you out. So we're going to draw excuse me, a little right brace line there, an impact line to see how things are going. We're going to draw a little head box to see what's going on here, but I really want you to pay attention to your right hip, which is your trail hip, and how you stop turning and almost start tilting it, and your upper body starts falling away from the target. So what we'll do to help you see this is we'll draw a really long line from the top of the sky all the way through to your spine at the very bottom. So that's basically the angle that you set. So it's pretty good for starting positions. Hands are slightly forward pressing. That's not too bad. I've seen worse, but my ideology is getting the hands and the club shaft to kind of point right to the center of your spine. Helps, align things a little bit easier, but it's pretty close. So not too bad there. As we take that club back to the halfway point, we can see the club is in a nice position here. I would say definitely need to start increasing your turn more, so that trail hip, you need to feel like that's moving away from that brace line just to help you turn, because here you're ready to go. You're looking like it's a one-piece turn. You got that nice triangle set. As you take that club back further, it starts to break away slightly, and you can see that right hip kind of bow over that impact line, and all of a sudden you have an excess of tilting happen with your hips. So once that excess of tilting happens, then what happens is your upper body, to keep you balanced, all of a sudden has to start counteracting that. And so what has happened now is you've shifted your spine angle. You can see it's almost straight and maybe slightly leaning into the target. And now once you have that slight lean into the target, if you go ahead and drive and turn from that position, it's going to be really hard for you to hit the golf ball unless your hands are really starting to flip at it. So you develop a motion of trying to right yourself as you come down into it. So now you get that lead hip to drive into it. It's a little bit too late though, because now you shifted ahead of the golf ball and your spine angle is kind of rocking back and forth. So that relies upon your hands now, because that's essentially changed your ball position back and forth. So your hands are now relied a little bit too much. You can see there's a slight bit of what you call that loss of lag, and that's where it's coming from. You know, if your body's moving, you know, you only have 0.1 seconds from the top of the swing to hit the golf ball. Actually, from the top of the swing to the follow through is 0.1 seconds. So to hit the golf ball is even less than that. So if your momentum is moving left, you've essentially moved your ball position back about 3 or 4 golf balls. So now all of a sudden your hands are the last line of defense, and they say, oh, I've got to get going, so I've got to flip to help hit the golf ball. Now if you just solely focus on increasing your lag but still keep the core motion moving left, you're probably going to miss the ball completely, and it's going to be very frustrating for you. So in order to learn cause and effect, you have to cure the cause first and then the effect later. Try not to focus on the effect. There's always a reason why your hands and arms are trying to save you. They're the last line of defense, so they should be paid attention to last. And as you can see here, I mean, you can see how your spine angle is still kind of shifted towards the target on your downswing, and then all you have to do is straighten it up and then flip. That's all you kind of left yourself with. And as a result, you're not able to turn and drive a lot. So I do see a lot of potential storage of power that is being leaked too early. But that's basically what I see from the front view. Let's take a look at the down the line and see if we can find some things else. Okay, Chris, so here is your down the line. I don't know now. It doesn't look like Mission Bay because the lights aren't in the back. So I'm still gonna say Southern California, somewhere in Long Beach. Let's take a look at the setup. Setup looks pretty good with the upper body. Arms are hanging down pretty nice. You got a nice little bend here. Let's look at where the feet are supporting the hips. Pretty close to the center of the hips, so that's pretty good. Maybe just a little bit further back just to help you get that spacing between your hands and your thighs. You can see there's hardly any space for your hands to kind of turn through naturally and release. So maybe just pull the legs back a bit, but just try that out and see if that helps. Let's take a look at your plane. So with the arms nice and low, you should have a pretty big plane to work with. So you have a nice avenue of least resistance there. And we're gonna draw some head brace line just to see what happens with the head. Okay, so let's take a look here. We're taking it back, doing a good job bracing that back brace line. Club face is slightly open to the target. Hands are kind of lifting up and away. Your shoulder tilting is pretty good there. Okay, so it's all looking pretty good. Get to the top plane line, maybe a little bit too far. And this is where things go a little bit cross for you. So as you get your arms to the top here, so it does look like you open up your hips pretty well. So I'd say it's just a length thing. If you take a look at your arm position here, that's about as good as you want it to be. As you take it back further, that little bit of extra motion is what is causing that upper body to tilt, and you can see how it's kind of leaning back and then you're kind of stuck. So just think about this. If you can stop sorry, my computer's freaking out. If you can stop your backswing here, you've eliminated this extra motion, and this extra motion starts you to do a couple things. You start tilting into the target, and all of a sudden to do that you have to untilt and lean, and that moves your ball position back further. And then you also have to make up that extra motion by getting the hands back out in front of you. So you add 3 of those things, and all of a sudden you are fishing instead of dropping and turning. And that's, other than that, I mean, your core's doing a good job. You're dropping down into the slot. There's where the casting happens. And as a result, your club falls below the plane. And then a tiny bit of flip to help you out. So I'm shocked if you don't hit heavy shots every now and then. But it definitely makes sense why you do hit thin shots. So give those things a try. But other than that, I hope that helps you. I hope it's not too much information. Your core swing looks really good. Just change a couple of the posture things, stand further back, and try not to get that extra little bit of thing at the top. So basically when your shoulders turn, that's where your arms could kind of just stop. Don't let them keep going back. And that's momentum based. So give it a try. Let me know. It's probably not Mission Bay. I'm going to guess Long Beach. Hopefully that helps. Let's see who's next. All right, next we have Phillip. So Phillip, let's see what he puts on his notes. No notes here. Okay, so we're just going to assume that you can get into good positions. Assume there's no range of motion injuries. And let's just take a look here. So I'm going to do the swing without any lines at first. Okay, yeah, okay. So this is mainly a setup problem. And again, you know, if you're not paying attention to your setup, not just you, Phillip, but all of us, including myself, your setup really sets you up for failure or a swing that relies upon compensation. So if everything is set up correctly and you have some sort of athletic ability, things will sequence correctly, things will evolve correctly. But if something's a little bit off, you're not giving yourself enough room, your alignment's off, your ball position's off, and you start developing a swing from that incorrect position, then all of a sudden you're going to develop a swing that has a lot of compensations, a lot of misses, missing at both sides, missing it dramatically, distance increase, distance loss. It's just really hard to come up with a sound swing where you can rely upon, especially when pressure is applied. Once pressure is applied, those swings usually fall apart. So let's draw some plane lines here. Arms are really low, so we can see you have a lot of width here to move that club around. Positives for that is you have a lot of width, but the negatives is it's so close to your body, your hands are almost touching your thighs, that there's no room for anything to drop and turn naturally. As a result, you probably turn too much because that's all you have, and you can't drop under and tilt because there's no room. So I see plane issues evolving, I see disconnection issues, and so your misses are probably all over the place. You might tend to miss it one side, but typically somebody like this, they tend to miss it everywhere. So we'll draw a general area around your head, a little back brace line there. Let's take a look at this motion here. So the club is trying to stay on plane, right? You see the club path is trying to stay there. Club shaft is really good with the club with the spine angle. So let's just draw your spine angle here. And so that's really, really solid there. But now you run into some problems because the hands are going so low, the club is going so high that you're having a tough time getting to that top plane line based on your setup. And so from here, you know, you can see your upper body is kind of stood up a little bit because your arms are starting to lower down and compensate for that motion, and that's pulled your upper body up. And now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, now I have to hit the golf ball from a flatter plane. So what do I need to do? I'm going to try my best to tilt with what I have, but if there's no room to tilt, all of a sudden you've blocked yourself out. You can't tilt from here, and you can see your right side is just, there's no room to go, so it's stuck with a turn, and as a result you have this severe outside in motion, very steep, and so you're kind of left with hands and arms, and you get that motion here. So this is a recipe for, you know, inconsistent distance, inconsistent contact. Don't get me wrong, you can still hit it okay here, and that might be where the frustration lies, because sometimes you'll hit it perfectly and you say, well, how can I do that again? The problem is it's almost like a game of lottery, and the more balls you hit, the more you can get away with, and then the timing becomes an issue. So sometimes that doesn't even help, and as you strike the golf ball, you can see how much you've lost in your original spine angle. So you've definitely come on up because you're trying to create some room for your hands to arms to go under, and then you try your best to have a full follow through and come on up based on that new tilt. So definitely setup issues can really alleviate a lot of this pain for you. So definitely stand further back, a little bit taller, let the arms relax naturally, don't pull them into your body. You need to see clear daylight between your hands and your thighs, and then just try and swing from there. I know it's going to feel weird, it's going to feel strange, but once you get that set up, then you can focus on maintaining your posture through your swing, and then that'll help allow your hands and arms to be in a position where they can do their job naturally while they're tilting instead of turning, and develop consistent timing because the core of your motion is staying pretty steady. So as long as the core of the motion stays steady and starts moving back and forth, then the hands and arms can say, okay, well, this is my new timing zone I have to work with. But if your core is kind of moving all over the place before, your hands and arms, they just don't have enough history to learn any sort of timing to help you. So hopefully that down the line view helps you with that. Let's take a look at the front. Okay, Phillip, so let me just guess where you're from. I don't know, those houses look very European for some reason. And there's snow on the ground, and you're in some sort of soccer attire. I'm just going to throw it out there and say you're somewhere in England. So let me know if I'm completely wrong. But let's take a look at this front view swing. Setup's pretty good. I like that setup there. Yeah, it looks very constricted. So, I mean, you clearly look like an athlete. But to me, that impact position isn't athletic. It is a survival impact position because your body doesn't have much room to be involved. So at impact, you can see you're trying to push whatever you have. Unfortunately, it's more of a twist because you're left with turning so much and just letting your hands and arms involved instead of ducking your right shoulder under and then pushing and driving the weight up to your left shoulder here. And you can see it's just pure twist, some sort of release. You're trying to get that weight over, but even your left foot is twisting out. So just see a lot of twist, but not a lot of drive. And typically that's a sign where someone is turning way too much. And why are you turning too much is because you don't have the room to tilt under and create that room for the hands and arms. It's like basically if I'm throwing a ball, right? If I'm here and I pull my hands and arms in and then turn my body, you watch Major League pitchers. And if you're in England, cricket, when they're bowling, I mean, you know, they do it from the, I don't know how they do it, underhand, I don't know. But they're over here. And when they release it, their right elbow is leading into the target. But if you need to create some room for that to happen, and in a golf posture, if you have no room for that to happen, you can't drop it and there's no room. So your only option is to go around. And that's what's giving you that steep angle, that outside in angle, and not a lot of tilting and driving. So for you specifically, address position, posture, alignment looks pretty good. From the front view, you do some really good things here. So this is something that I preach to everybody, and I'm so glad that I see you do it, is you are, look at this, I'm going to draw the club right through and into your head. So that is, for me, that is textbook perfect because everything is matching to your spine angle. So from the front view, you look really good. From the side view, you just look a little bit too congested. So there's not much room to move and manipulate your body around. So create that room to allow your leverage to happen. You look like an athlete. You look like you can use your body correctly. Give it a try and you'll be surprised. You can start actually driving your way through. If you still find yourself in some issues, once you get your setup position a little bit better to create the room for you, then obviously go see somebody to help you get the basic fundamentals of how athletic motions should happen in a rotation sport. So tennis, baseball, golf, even hockey, anything that's rotating around an axis point, which is most sports, you did definitely the body involved, or else there's no power. So just keep it for that. I hope that helps you, and let me know if I'm correct about somewhere in England. If not, I deeply apologize, but let's see who's next. All right, next up we have Eric. All right, Eric. Typical miss is off the toe, thin, and push to the right. All right. That sounds like one of my many misses. Okay, slight forward press going on there. Slight overextension, pulling you out of your posture. Lower body's trying to do what it can, kind of hanging back a little bit. Okay, spine increase at impact. Good extension. Arms wrapping around. A lot of turn. Okay. Just be careful with this one. Lower back. Just be careful lower back and also your left knee and ankle. Whenever you start hanging back, especially with an iron, and you have a lot of turning, look at that ankle. I mean, it's really absorbing a lot. Really absorbing a lot of impact here. You can see that thing's, a little bit more, and you might have to put yourself in a cast. But just be careful because we see this hanging back with an iron. That's more like a driver and swinging up on it, because of the sole plate of the iron, it's designed to swing down, and the bounce of the club helps you not dig in the ground. So you're supposed to swing down. And when you're hanging back, it could be an issue with ball position. It could be an issue with how you set up to the starting point. So let's go back to your address position here and see. And if you follow a couple of my videos, you'll see that this is one of my pet peeves, is seeing this club out on the left side here. So it's already connected to your left elbow, left forearm. Instead, it should be connected right through your spine. You typically see this when you have that shaft out in front. To get that shaft out in front, you either have to turn to push it out there, but that messes with your alignment. So another option is to kind of tilt. And so you can see you're tilting. I don't know what club this is, but your tilting is pretty up there. You know, based on this, you see you're trying to tilt your hands. Excuse me, you're trying to tilt your spine to match your hands. But look where that ball position should be. That ball position should be here, based on this club and based on the way you're setting up. Which is why when you take a swing and you hit it, as you strike the golf ball, where's your spine? Boom, it's stuck behind here. So you're just rotating around your spine. Your hands are pressing into the target. You might drive it down really well. You might hit it good. But with that position, you can't really release it. So you have a lot of manipulation past. And we usually see this too, is when your shoulders have to really dig under because they don't want to release the ball. Because if they release it, that ball's going so far left. So you have to hold off that release and block underneath and just do what you can to hold it off. And then comes the turn. But you can see how much you're hanging back based on that initial spine angle. So you're doing a good job staying in your initial spine angle. However, that was for a driver and you had an iron in your hand trying to hit down with a forward press. So a little bit of issues can arise from that, and specifically toe and thin and pushes. Because why is that occurring? Because your right shoulder is digging down, you're holding off the release, you can't release the club, so what's left is kind of an open club face, maybe off the toe because you can't clear the toe. A lot of things can happen from here. So really pay attention to your setup, because there's no point to try and again, not just you, but everybody, you need to pay attention to your setup, because the setup is the biggest thing that can assist you or can destroy you without you even knowing it. And you're going to hit thousands of balls around an inconsistent setup for the club that you're trying to use, and it's not going to work out. It's like basically saying, I'm going to use a hammer to go and paint the wall. Well, the tool's not designed to paint the wall. The tool's designed to use it as a purpose. So your clubs are individual tools, and you have to know how to use them correctly and understand the concept of the club and how bounce affects everything and how that directly affects the way you set up. So definitely a setup issue here. But in terms of how you work around that setup issue, I mean, you do a pretty good job. I mean, you do what you can. But I definitely think once you get that setup corrected, you won't be so in this back position. You won't have a lot of that toe coming up in the air. Definitely avoid some injuries later on as you start to age. So from the front view, looks pretty good outside of the setup issue. In terms of pretty good, I mean, you hit it pretty good from that incorrect setup position. But let's take a look at down the line. All right, Eric, let's take a look at down the line here. Okay, we got a pause, spine angle, we got our club, shaft going right through. Pretty hunched over. I wish I knew what club this is. It looks like a longer club, maybe a 6-iron. Weight, back of the heels is supporting the middle, not too bad. And you have arms hanging down naturally, so it looks pretty good. Let's take a look at the motion. Okay, left arm doesn't quite reach that high, so you've shallowed out your tilting. Head's coming up because of that shallowing out motion. Drop it in. Do we keep it in the slot? We keep it in the slot pretty good. Okay, you do a really good job with what you have. And there's that excess tilt. Okay, so you can see what's going on here. Let's just delete some of these, because you do a really good job of what you have. So we're based on your setup. So it looks a little bit too forward bend, and the problem with this, and that's that forward bend number, it almost looks like 45 degrees, is now that 45 degrees turns to 45 degrees from that angle as you take the club back. So if we take a look at what happens here as you get to the top, you've kind of flattened it out at the top here. Now it's not 45 degrees, it's more down those lines. And then from here, as you dive into it, you get it back to the regular 45, and it might even be slightly more past impact. That's because of that tilting, and you can see that release, and that release is pretty close at impact, past impact coming through. You do a good job though, because you can see that ball starts out slightly right and draws back in, so you're able to hold off that release enough and snap through it. So I would imagine you can probably hit the ball pretty far. But there's a little bit of tilting issues. Could be because you're leaning over, and plus also that forward press could cause you to kind of change your tilting. So I'm a huge advocate of simplifying the process down. Less moving parts, it requires less timing, less golf balls hit, so you can spend more time on putting and chipping where most people need the help, including myself. But just take a look at the setup. I mean, really, if you're not seeing somebody, go ask somebody, go watch videos, look at different ways to set up. Look at ways to set up where it goes right through your spine. There's plenty of videos out there. I can link you to some videos if you wish. Just let me know in the comment box and I'll show you some videos that I would like you to see, preferably if you were my student. I've seen plenty of people hit it correctly the way you are, and there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. However, it has its drawbacks, and I see the drawbacks in your swing, and specifically a drawback for your health, because eventually your left ankle is not going to take any more of this, and your left knee and your back, just that falling back. So just keeping an eye out for your body in the long term. You want to play this game until you're in your 90s, and I don't want you to be out of this game too soon. So hopefully that helps. Comes from a good place, and I'm gonna guess where you're from is really cold and drizzly. It's not over here in SoCal. It's probably up in, let's just say, the most drizzliest place I know is Seattle. I think they have 20 days a year where there's a sunshine. So let's just throw it out there. But you're probably somewhere else. But let me know. Let's see who's final up. All right, let's take a look here. Next we have Kesley. All right, Kesley, 25-year-old South African. Hoe gaan dit, Joe? I'm from Joburg, so it's nice to see a fellow. Is that Joburg? It looks kind of like Joburg. I'm gonna say Joburg right at the back, or not Pretoria, but Joburg. Started playing golf 4 months ago. Well, welcome to golf. I appreciate you allowing me to see one of your very first swings. So let's take a look at what we have here. I'll tell you what, for 4 months, that's a good motion. I don't think you sent me a front view, so that's okay. We'll just stick with this down the line and give you the best what we can. Front view is important because it allows me to see your setup, to see if there's anything that's changing that needs to be adjusted. So if you have time, send me a front view and I could do it on the next video. Overall, let's take a look. Okay, so we're gonna do a spine angle, lower plane, upper plane, head and back brace line, just to kind of see what the body does in the swing. And I think this thing shifts a bit. That's okay. All right, so the camera angle might be changing some of this. So if you are sending me videos, try and get it from hip height, because hip height really captures that midway point. When you're standing above hip height, it looks like the club is below plane, but it's probably pretty close to plane, maybe slightly below it. But if it's hip height, I can really see where that club face is at halfway point to see if it's riding up that that plane line. But it looks like you lose a little bit you increase your tilting, kind of going down. You can see how much you're going down at that golf ball, trying to get low. As a result, that does change your plane a little bit because you've lowered your plane. And as you come into the target here, you're pulling away so you're pulling left of the target, which is good. Not a lot of drive I see here. So in other words, what you need to feel like is, if you see this plane here, it goes right through your spine. Just feel like you're stuck in that spine. Try not to get any tilting going on. Based on where you set up is where you should tilt. You turn around your tilt. So if you're set up nice and tall, it's easy because it's just like you're standing up. But the more bent over you are, the more you feel like you have to tilt. But you're not. You're just kind of tilting around that turn. So I see a little bit of rocking under. So your tilt is going down, and then you get really low to the ball, but then you don't push up. Now, you can get away with going down if you push up. Now, the problem is that club's designed to hit down. Now, when you're trying to push up, your upper body has to go down while your lower body's going up. And in order to keep those two things together, you have to have an incredibly strong core to help pull your upper body down and allow your lower body to go up. So it's reserved for really good golfers who can do that. And I'm not saying you can't at this stage in your development. It's okay if you want to try it, but definitely feel like your centeredness is your core and you're pulling your upper body down while your lower body's driving up on the way into the golf ball. But if you take a look at your overall range of motion, it looks pretty good. you definitely are turning. A little bit of separation here, and by separation you can see as you are tilting your upper body, it's kind of pulling you down, and then you stop, you're turning with the upper body. So everybody kind of stops right about here. Now at this point, your arms should be further away from your chest, because now you're basically taking the center and you're pulling your arms back behind the center. And now as you strike the golf ball, you have to now push your arms back in front of that center when they should have been out in front anyway, to make it easier for you to just turn and tilt. So just less moving parts again, but you do a good job of coming down through it. So club gets a little bit below the plane line, which is okay for now. As you strike the golf ball, look how much you're holding your spine angle. So really good recovery. So good job recovering, but unfortunately, you don't really want a motion where you have to be, celebrated for recovering. You want a motion where you have to be celebrated for using a correct position wisely. So I love the fact that you're trying to push up with your right foot. It's getting nice and straight. I think it's pushing off the toe, which is good. I don't see much reception on the heel. And you can see kind of moved into the ball a little bit there. So maybe feel like you're pushing more back over here. Push the power back to the left heel, which will now clear the hips further. So you'll actually keep them on your brace line, which will allow you to tilt more under with the right shoulder. So you're becoming more into out slightly, and you can just drive all your natural power through. It's all that rugby. I know you guys play out there. And then you do a good job coming through. So you can see you have a really good core. As you come through all the way, you can see you're trying your best to stay in that spine angle. You don't have to stay in it all the way. At that point, you should already come on up and just kind of release all the pressure from your lower back. You don't want to start popping discs out there. But I'll tell you what, for 4 months, you are way ahead of 99% of people. Let me just tell you that. So definitely have a lot of talent. I hope you're working with somebody at this young, tender age in golf. Not in you, but just in golf, because the more you work with somebody, the quicker they can figure out and help you guide on the correct things to do. Setup, ball position, posture, alignment, and then work your natural motion through. So I really hope that helps you, and I really miss the Bryes out there and the biltong, so have some extra for me. But I hope you guys like that. I hope that helped you out there, Kelsey. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comment box. But if you guys know anybody else that wishes to do this, send a video. Link is down in the description. And thanks again for your support. I'll be looking forward to more episodes in the future. And I'll see you when I see you. I'm trying to get another one of these up in the next couple of days and get caught up. So fairways and greens.